Yeah. Let's start discussion on very important topic. While the banks, financial institutions, or the insurance company are selecting for vendor, and then before that they prepare the Hazis baseline document. So let's discuss on the topic as is baseline document for future proofing AML and CFT vendor requirements. So what the vendor should have on the basis of the banks or the financial institution. This document will conclude or the have the strategic approach to vendor selection for the compliance team to satisfy. So in this video or in this document, we will discuss on the some key points. So let me give you. So first we will discuss on the introduction, on the understanding and evolving the landscape of the vendor selections, and then we will discuss on to prepare the hedges baseline document. So where the current vendor requirement we discuss, how we collect this requirement, which document we need to prepare, so what are the features or functionality that a vendor have. So we discuss on that and draw the documents, and then we move on the to be vision document. So key features, grouping elements, what to be the document, and the regulatory and technological drivers in the current market. So that should be have in the the proposed system or the proposed money laundering systems, and the future proofing strategy, a framework for the vendor selection, how we select the vendor, and then conclusion and actionable recommendation. And then finally, if you have any questions or if you want more understanding on that slide, so we discuss on that point. So let's move on the most important slide, that is an introduction to evolving landscape. So let's first discuss on the challenges, and then regulatory pressure, and then problem, and then the objectives. So the current system which have the for the banks to do the transaction monitoring, name screening, or sanction screening, they have some challenges. So that's why they are to get for the new vendor, or to add the AIML techniques or the blockchain techniques for the ledgers. So let's discuss on some challenges, like a financial crime is becoming a sophisticated and dynamic, and the criminals behavior are changing with the technologies enhancement, and the broader and the outpacing traditional rule based systems are not sufficient. So the traditional methodologies are not sufficient. So that's why the banks or the financial institution move on the modern techniques to do the transaction monitoring, or the name screening, or the payment screening. So there is the second one is a regulatory pressure. Yeah, obviously the global regulator like financial action task force, or the domestic regulator, central bank, or the financial intelligence units, or other regulator will continuously changing the demands for the effective and efficient or optimum way of transaction monitoring system. And that should use a risk based or the technology driven compliance, or that should be to satisfy the rules and regulation which is defined by the regulator. And the problem in the current system are the many financial institutions are rely on legacy AML and the CFT system, which are the old version, and that not be satisfy the current technologies, and the other system are upgraded, and the struggle with the modern threats and leading to high false positive result, and time humans interaction will require to resolve all these fails positive and manual work, and the regulatory risks are not satisfied, and high penalties if they are not to properly manage the anti-money laundering and counter terrorist financing risks. So let's discuss on objective to select the best vendor or two vendor requirements. So the presentation outline the current state of the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing vendor requirement and strategic framework for selecting the future-proof solution. So in that presentation, we discuss on how the future and the current state will look like, and what are the elements we should draw in the as is process and the to be process. So let's move on the next slide, which is an also important. So which is the as is baseline, the current vendor requirement. So the the consultant firm or the teams which will understand the hedges the process of that bank. So they will draw the as is document, so the current baseline document. So where what are the the current pain point in their current system and how they are working and how the process of the transaction monitoring system will work, like the data ingestion, the alert generation, alert assignment, and finally the alert dashboard and the look like. So let's discuss on one by one. So the core functions like customer due diligence or know your customers, to verify the customer identity and the official beneficiary of that customer or the transaction details. So while onboarding that customer, so that thing will done by, and to track the name screening of that customer with the word check or the TSM system, it should it own have. So to that verify that thing, and the transaction monitoring will do. So rule based method is in current system to detect the suspicious pattern, and how do they do the alert analysis, case management, how they find the STR report, suspicious activity report, suspicious transaction report, cash transactions report, or ETA, electronic transaction report, domestic foreign transactions report, or the international foreign transactions report in transaction monitoring system if they find the suspicious transaction. And they are also discuss on the sanction and the whitelist screening. So I already told you ki OFAC, UAN, and checking the customer and transaction again the global list, how they are doing their, the whitelist, and check the sanction list of the customers, and then regulatory reporting, how they will report to the regulator. I already told you SA are suspicious activity report and automate generate a suspicious activity report, or they are generally manual, or is that follow the GoML format and other requirement. So that thing also they discuss. And then the technology and data. So what the technology in the current transaction monitoring system have, what are the database they use, how the ERD diagram will look like. So they discuss or to gather requirement in the, they are conducting the sessions like a functional session. There is a 2 to 3 functional session and 1 to 2 the technical session. So functional guy and the technical guy will understand all these requirement and solid the data from various system to core banking and onboarding and to the transaction monitoring system. So like different system how collect data and how feed data to the transaction monitoring system. And the rule based engine is a static or threshold, how the dashboard will look like. It is, and the dynamics dashboard or the statics dashboard, and how the manual case management and investigation will happen, how the compliance team or other business team will gather or collect the more information of that customer, if the current system will show the 360-degree view of that customer. So all these things we look in that point. And then we discuss on the limitation like high volume of false positive, inefficiency of manual process, and difficult adopting the new typology and regulatory requirements. So on that basis, to under we will prepare the edges baseline document of that bank or financial institution, and then we further connect the with that bank to define the to be or the vision, the key features proofing element. So that should have in the next or the upcoming the software or the vendor software. So let's they will discuss on the AI ML techniques. So they will do the behavior analysis, reducing the false positive and explainable AI. So the system will have the capability or establishing the baseline of normal behavior to detect the anomalies and flag true risks. And to they will detect the customer behavior or the customer patterns, and that's why they will to detect the anomalies in customer behavior, and on that basis they itself assign the risks against that customer, and they will generate the alerts on that customer on that the behavior pattern, and the reduce the fails positive. So if we implement the AIML techniques like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, or semi supervised learning, so AI driven model learn the historical data or learn from the data which we feed to that model, and to reduce the noise with 62% and reduce the fails positive rates and increase the true positive rates by implementing the the reward and penalty things in that models. And explainable AI provide a transparent explanation for why the alerts are generated, and provide the the data why that alert is heated, what the requirement needed for the analyst to do the analysis or the reviewer to review that on that that customer data, and crucial for the regulatory and scrutiny. And also they do the link analysis or the network analysis or provide the past historical analysis against that customer, against that transactions. So this thing will happen. And then the advanced data and analytics will help you how that flow will happen. So centralized data platform, real time transaction monitoring will happen. So currently the batch processing, the transaction monitoring will happen. Most of the the banks or the financial institution, they require the real time transaction monitoring. So centralized data platform, a single source of the truth for all customer and the transaction data, including the structure and unstructured data, how they will flow, how they will happens, what are the structured data, what are the unstructured data. And then the real time transaction monitoring, proactive detect of suspicious activity as it happen, and rather than the batch processes, we depend and we freeze the account or debit freeze the account by using the AML techniques. And to at the time of the suspicious activity happens, we immediately freeze such kind of the transaction. So that's we will make in the 2B solution. So we will do that thing. And the agile and this scalable architecture, so we will move from the the system based to the cloud, or the premises based to the cloud based or the native solution. So we will enough flexible scalability, faster deployment, and new features will update. And we will make sure the the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing or the transaction monitoring model should be up to date technology, or that should be with up to date technology to software will work in the speed and the API driven integration. So where we can interact with the different system with using the APIs and to transact the data. So API interaction is there, seamlessly connect the existing legacy system with emerging data sources. So with using the API, we can to interact with the core banking system, car transaction system, or the trade based financial system. So that's we will do. And then we will discuss on the regulatory and the technological drivers, so that will influence that technology. So the regulatory trend first we discuss, and then we discuss on the technological trend. So let's the regulatory trend are, they want to risk based approach and the AIML driven approach, or they also suggested in future the supervised learning, unsupervised learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning driven approach. And how the anomaly will depend. So a move from the one size fit small and toward the proportion to risk based control. So where the banks or the financial institution will categorize the customer on the basis of low risk, medium risk, or high risk. So that will to identify the things genuinely. And then the beneficiary owner and transparency, increase focus on identify ultimate beneficiary owners, UBO, and to prevent the use of shell companies. If there is a sales companies which is not physical existence or not the employees, and to identify such some techniques to identify such some shell companies and UBOs. Then the virtual assets and DeFi. So regulatory are expecting oversight, and cryptocurrency are centralized finance, and that will help us the regulator and require robust monitoring system that analyze all these things. Or the system have capabilities to all the 360-degree transactions of the bank which happen in the bank, so that can monitor and identify the suspicious transactions, or to do the link analysis and the information sharing, a push of getter collaboration and data sharing among the financial institution, and combat complex and cross border crime transactions to identify the the risks for the sanctions list customers, and to do the such transaction on the basis of regulatory requirement. So the technology trend, so there is a huge enhancement in the technology. So AML technology is there, back blockchain technology is there, the other technology are there, so we will use that technology and enhance the system. So then we will use the generative AIs for the large language models to assist the analyze and investigation of the reports writing, and that system will generate automatically report from that system, and help to the reviewer to how to identify the what need to pending, and what things should include in the suspicious transaction report, cash transactions report, or the suspicious activity report itself. The system will do, and the predictive analytics identify emerging risks and new typologies before they escalated. What are the, the customer will do, and then digital identify, advance in digital identity verification, and including the biometric and video based solutions. So that will there, and how that will happen. So these are the regulatory and technology driver that should have in the 2B process. So let's move on the next things, that is a future proofing strategy and the framework. So what the future proofing should look like. So the future the framework of vendor selection is conduct the gap analysis, prioritize the functionality, evaluating the scalability and integration, demand the explainability, and the foster partnership. So let's discuss the first. We do the conduct the gap analysis. So assess where we understand what are the current process, how the the organizational structure, or what are the team members in the business team or the compliance team, and what are their roles and responsibilities, what are the scenario we will feel in that system. So assess the current capabilities and the future regulatory requirement and the technological requirement that system should have. So we will do our do analysis on that field, and then we will move on the prioritize the functionality or the prioritize the requirement, or prioritize the high level requirement or the medium level requirement, and sort the requirement with using the requirement sort techniques, or to do the the SWOT analysis, or to very urgent or very important requirements. So prioritize the requirement, look for the vendor that offer the modular or AI driven solutions for the real time monitoring and behavioral analytics, and enhance the due diligence, and that will upgrade it same. So that will we identify, or to draw the request for proposal document or the request for information document for the the vendors. So then evaluate the scalability and integration. Ensure the solution can handle the future's data volume. So we do the forecasting. What are the data volume in the current, and what are the data in the future. So that solution should have to work on that data volume, seamlessly interact with the existing technology, and stuck with the robust API, and adopt that APIs, work on that web API, or the operating system API, or the design API. So work on that APIs and expand the explainability. Select a vendor that provide a clear and auditable explanation for all driven decisions, and satisfy the regulatory demand. And that will demand will what are the requirements, or what are the 2B system we are looking for. So that all the requirements that the vendor should have, and the foster partnership. So choose vendor that act as a long term partner with the cost effective, with the financial effective, which is the feasibility of that vendor, and staying ahead with the regulatory changes, and actively investing in the new technologies, and to select finalize that vendor. So let's conclude an actionable recommendation from this video. So what we learn from this video and conclude that thing. So assess, strategize, partner, and invest. So these are the the techniques we should use at the time of vendor evaluation. So let's first discuss on the assess. Start by conducting a comprehensive interview review of the current AML system program and vendor dependencies, to understand the vendor solutions, to read the vendor manual, and what are the current institution vendor provide the solution. So do assessing on that, and understand the to prepare the gap analysis document, and to do the analysis on that, and then strategize the develop and clear roadmap for mitigation to future proof solutions. How the solution will look like, what are the futures that solution will include, and prioritize the agile and AI driven platforms. And then make a partner, engage with the vendor who are not just a service provider but strategic alliance in your fight against the financial crime. And that will be the advanced technology, or that will have the AI driven or the blockchain technology in their product. So to adopt these such kind of vendor, and then start the investing, and start the the future meetings with vendor and start to creating the product with using the what agile methodology with MVP, minimum viable product. And once the define the product, the timeline for to deployment, that the software in the production environment and the go live date, and invest for and advocate for the investment in technology to reduce the manual burdens, increase the efficiency, and strengthen your institution defense against the evolving threats. So that's the process, or that's we learn from this video. So guys, thank you so much for attending this video. If you have any open points, or if you want any the questions, or if you want more details in that perspective, so I'll therefore help you out. And please do like and comment my videos and subscribe my channel, so that motivate me to create more such videos for you. So thank you so much once again, guys. Thanks.